Hey beautiful people, my name is Kristin. Thank you for taking time to stop by my channel. Today I'm filming in a special place. This is actually my front yard, which is the backyard of a lovely family that I am living with for almost a month as I transition from my move to Virginia to Texas, and my house is not quite ready to close on. So look at my front yard, y'all. And I think the burbling fountain is lovely, so hopefully it's not going to be too distracting. If it is, I will have to re-record this inside, but I just wanted to take advantage of the beautiful season. And it is fall. It's about 60 degrees out, so it's perfectly awesome to enjoy nature and to enjoy some books. This was a great reading month for me. I was in the middle of, well, not middle, it's about 1,300 pages, and I had 300 pages left of Oathbringer. This is the third in the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I have a whole other review of Stormlight, but I just wanted to touch base with this and in my reviews of reading the end of it and just say it was a fantastic ending. Lots and lots of action, lots of kind of different locations, battles, epic encounters, closure on some relationships, wide open on others, and I'm very much excited to read the fourth. It comes out on paperback on November 17th, so I will be picking them up at the bookstore on November 17th and starting that book, which I do not anticipate being done with until December, but stay tuned for more of the Stormlight reviews. On my drive, which was about 19 and a half hours of actual drive time, I got the opportunity to listen to 2.5 books, which I then finished the third book on audio tape when I got home. And the one I finished at home was the Vineyard Killing, and it's, I think 2004 is when it was released. I think I would have enjoyed this book more if I had read it. It is a story on Martha's Vineyard. There is a series of murders, and it centers around a corrupt real estate deal where they're basically legally forcing people out of their properties by finding problems in their titles and deeds and paperwork, and then forcing them to sell low in order to not be sued for these mistakes or to be held accountable for legal mistakes. So I really sincerely hope that that is not possible to do that in real life, but that's the premise of this, and it was enjoyable, but I would probably only give it at least 2.5 kind of stars. Not mad about it, but I didn't think it was all particularly that exciting, and I wasn't like glued to the edge of my seat, unlike my other two audio books that I listened to, which were exceedingly good. The first, I decided, since I was driving to Texas, I would go ahead and listen to former President George W. Bush narrate his book called Decision Points. This centers around his presidency and a little bit before, kind of leading up to it, his governorship, talking about major decisions that he had to make. And so these talks in detail about 9/11, about going into Afghanistan, which was fascinating to listen to that based on current events, as well as Iraqi war and what was going on, and Katrina hit, so he was dealing with that, and just listening to the president, former president himself, narrating it, you could even hear in his voice the emotion and the angst, particularly when he was talking about his struggles with the American people falsely accusing him of like not caring about the folks in Katrina, when really he was waiting for the emergency people to go first and not take away resources, those kind of things. I just got his heart for the American people, and I really do believe that at the root of all the presidents, whether you like them or not, they are American and care about the people. It's like we may not agree with everything that they put into action or force, but I always believe there's a human in there, and we should be praying or whatever is your practice, supporting our president and leadership, because they have so much on their plate. They have so much. So this was just so informative. I learned so much. I particularly did not know anything about his major attempt to reform Social Security and his work on immigration, and that both kind of fell through, so that's why we don't hear a lot. And then also the No Child Left Behind was particularly an interesting segment. So if you're interested, I have on my TBR after this the Clinton's memoir, as well as several of the former presidents that I would like to go back, but this was kind of the first one I did, and it was a good one. I also have to highly 5-star recommend Sadie by Courtney Summers. This was audiobook, and I haven't read the book. I would like to maybe go back and read the book as well, but this was fantastic. It was a full cast, and the story is told about missing girls that have gone missing, whether they've run away or been kidnapped or whatever the situation around that. And it's told from the perspective of Sadie, who's one of the girls, but also goes back and forth from the perspective of a news radio broadcaster, and they actually air the segments that we would hear from the radio. So the very first chapter is a radio segment, and at first I thought it was a commercial for the book itself, but it was the book, if that makes sense. So it was just so thoughtful, interesting. I loved how gritty, and it didn't try to sugarcoat anything, but it also wasn't overly gruesome, even when there were hard facts involved. So this was just outstanding. Loved it. Maybe at the top of my books that I have encountered, and was super happy I'd picked that up. I did read this one for work, but this is the being Presbyterian in the Bible Belt. So I am going from Methodist to Presbyterian, and I won't say a lot about this, but I wanted to mention it since it was a book that I read in October. But it talks about the Presbyterian belief of heaven, hell, predestination, the inerrancy or inspiration of God's word, all those kind of things. So if you're interested in any of those kind of things, basically the bottom line was I already am very much in alignment. My church has nothing to worry about. I'm down with supporting their beliefs and feel comfortable in that. If you ever want to have any kind of theological discussion, you can just drop it in. Enter the book Kristin at Gmail. I'm happy to discuss just about anything privately. I don't always put all my beliefs out there publicly. I did do my first book vlog, which I don't think was particularly a great vlog, but I'm working on it. I learned a lot, so stay tuned for better, improved vlogs. But I read Fredrik Backman's Anxious People, a story of a group of people who a bank robbery goes awry and becomes a hostage situation, and it's told from the perspective of the people and the police who are investigating this incident. It was a little long, particularly in the middle. I really like his humor and his kind of talking to the audience, but it's about a 300-page book, so the 100 pages in the middle was a little draggy for me because I'd already experienced enough of what I wanted to get in the first part, and it's not action-packed, and some of it's a lot of it is very unrealistic, what I think would actually happen or people would actually do, but I appreciate what Backman was trying to portray, and I think it's a worthy read. I give it like 3.5 stars on that one. I also, for my book of the month, had gotten Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Baart. This was a good book. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I didn't have huge expectations going in, mostly because the last 4 books of the month books I have gotten have just been kind of meh. But this one is a definite solid 3.5, close to 4 star. It's basically told mainly from the perspective of a girl who, when she was 19, there was a horrific murder that happened, and she left her town that this had happened in, and her brother was the main person accused, although he was not convicted. It's kind of an unsolved murder, and so she has gone back to her roots, back to that, and is investigating and coming across all these things of the past and wrestling with that and how they play in and trying to get closure. And so it was good. It wasn't like, you know, the best book I've read, but it was definitely solid, and I super enjoyed it. And it was one of those that I found myself not really necessarily wanting to put down. I wanted to go ahead and read one more chapter and read one more chapter. So that right there is a sign of a good book. For my nonfiction of the month, I read my last in my TBR for 2021. So that's awesome. It's called A Little Piece of Light. It's by Donna Hyton. And this is a memoir of a woman who, when she was a young woman, got herself in a situation where she acquired the wrong friends, and they basically coerced her through threats on her family to be involved in a murder. And so she was brought to trial, and technically she was guilty, right? She had been part of this group who had been involved in this crime, and so she went to prison. But she, the whole time, was kind of struggling with it and wrestling with it, and she got involved in a lot of ministry and reformation projects and people, and found the right people, if you will, in her prison ministry, and goes on to continue to pay it forward, to shape lives, to try to work for advocacy, and to help particularly women who might get into those situations where they are put in harm's way or tempted or could struggle in the same way she did. So beautiful story of redemption, of understanding the system, all those kind of good things. I also did a review already for my read of Edgar Allan Poe's. This is his short stories. There aren't poems or complete unabridged. It's just his most famous short stories. I enjoyed them so much. I had not read them in like 30 years. So sitting down and rereading them, I was just so impressed. And my heart just really went out to Poe as a person who lived a very, very hard life. It comes across in his angst and his struggles beautifully in his writing, and we benefit from that. But my heart kind of goes out to him a little bit, that someone would live a hard life. And finally, I read B.E. Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So this book had been on my TBR for months and months, and I just hadn't got to it, and I was like, I am reading it this month, and I'm really glad I did. This is definitely a solid 4-star, almost 5 stars. So this one and Sadie are kind of my favorite books that I read this month. It is a story of a girl who doesn't want to marry. She's kind of being forced into it, and she makes a deal with the devil. And basically she's granted immortality, but she has a curse that nobody will remember her as soon as she's out of sight. So they can see her and talk to her and encounter her and get to know her, but as soon as she goes to the bathroom or, you know, goes home for the night, they can't remember her. So it's fascinating how she perceives the world, encounters the devil who revisits her year after year, and of course does know her and is waiting for her to sacrifice her soul to him. So the ending was probably the reason why I don't give it a 5-star. But I like this book a lot more than Vicious and some of the previous ones, so I'm glad I stuck with the author and gave her another chance, and I look forward to giving her some more read in the future. So really, really interesting premise, and you know, totally, if you like that kind of time travel and experiencing things throughout the centuries with a character, I can recommend this one. It is a good, solid read. So those are the books that I read / listened to in the month of October. I think I covered up my one I'm reading. Today is Halloween as I'm posting this. So I had started Charlaine Harris's Dead to the World. This is a vampire kind of romance novel. I'm just about a third of the way through it. I'll read a little bit more, but I probably won't even get this finished because we got other things going on today. But it will be in my November book reviews, so I won't say any more about it now. But happy Halloween and All Saints Day tomorrow, and I will look forward to your comments if you have read any of these books. If you want to now read any of these books, or just what you're reading. And I hope that you have a blessed day, and wherever you're at, it's gorgeous and sunny. Thanks.